What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Game Time Discussions. I'm Emery Cuzzy. I'm sitting here with Cameron Selby. We are going to be going over our final mock draft today. And I said I'm so excited about this last week, and like we did our video for our big board, and I was rewatching it. I was like, that doesn't sound like an excited guy. I was like, wow, like what am I doing in there? No, I am pumped. Hopefully the energy is coming this way now. But I rewatched it and I was like, you have to watch that at 1.5 times. You're not going to get anything out of it. But no, this is a awesome time of year. This is my favorite time of year. We talk about this a lot, actually, because I'm actually bigger on the NFL draft than I am damn near the Super Bowl. The NFL draft was rated one of the top 10 sporting events. Most watched sporting events, top 10. It was number 9. So I was like, hell yeah, I'm in there, because this is the thing that I love the most.
For half the teams, it is their Super Bowl because everybody's 0-0. There's only optimism of building your team. So everybody is going into it with like, hey, if we get this guy, we're on the way up. And then if it doesn't happen, obviously you get laughed out and teased, and there's plot twists, there's picks. What I like about it is more so there is a lot more unknown up top than last year, and it's not even close regarding that.
Right.
Like last year was a very chalky thing. The one blip or question mark was how many quarterbacks were going to go, which ended up being 6, was on the high end of everybody's expectation. And then also, if there was a JJ trade up, which of the teams was going to do it, and then that was going to have a small trickle effect in the top 10. This year, it is so wide open that it became too chalky at the top, and we had to do some little dips and swerve. And we did a tweet today where we had to completely redo this overnight because of how we saw some updated odds and information this morning. We were just like, this isn't making sense. We got to change things up, and so we did it, and this is what we're sticking to until further notice, I guess.
I also think it's kind of funny, like looking at our board and stuff. It's like we know one of these teams is going to screw it up.
Oh yeah.
We just don't know who.
Might be your team. Might be my team.
Yeah, might be Jacksonville. Might be New England. Like. Top 3 we're pretty comfortable with. They're pretty high odds, but like after that, you're like,
draft starts at basically 4.5 because there's a hunch that New England stays and sticks and picks, and we'll get into that. But if there's a trade down, then obviously
everything is different.
Everything's different. So yeah,
let's
but I'd say let's jump right into it. So final mock, consensus 3. You're not going to find many mock drafts that are going away from this. Cam Ward up top. He's been up top for a long time. He's minus what? 20,000.
20,000.
To go number 1. So it's happening.
It's bad.
Travis Hunter is long odds now to be number 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then Abdul Carter by default. But you want to say that loosely because he is the best player in this draft to us. But the Giants, it's probably their least need of anything. But they're just inheriting the best player because they're not going to go with quarterback at 3.
Yeah, and I think it's the best decision. I was vouching for it on our first mock draft. I was like, look, I know that they have nothing because they didn't even have Jameis at that point. Mm-hmm. Like, I get it. But I was like, Shedur's not a top 10 player, top 20 player. So I'm not comfortable putting him that high. It ended up where Travis Hunter is now the minus 1350 to be the number 2 overall pick, and Abdul Carter is minus 700 to be the number 3 overall pick. So really long odds for them to be, the guys at this point. So I'm very comfortable with both of these guys.
Now, I did want to mention this morning, Peter Schrager, well-known and regarded reporter, came out and said that there is kind of some discussion still going on between 2 and 3 on fielding calls for the pick, and if there's an ungodly offer that you can't refuse, if you're a Giant or a Brown that, man, we just kind of don't want to be here, or the Giants like, hey, we only want Hunter, we're going to field calls. If that call specifically is for Abdul Carter, best player available, and somebody is going to trade up, who would you like to see make that move?
Carolina. It's not even a question in my mind. Like, Carolina would benefit the most out of this. They have Jadeveon Clowney and DJ Wonnum, but both are 2026 unrestricted free agents. And I think that he just automatically helps them. He would be in their defense. They run a 3-4. He used to play inside linebacker. He can diagnose the run from the outside linebacker spot. He can do all the things, and he can rush the passer. He's our favorite player. If an opportunity happens, Carolina moving up would make a lot of sense. I think there's other teams, but Carolina's the one that I think has the most need and will want to push for it. They kind of got screwed, though, because they're picking 8th in this draft. And the reason they're picking 8th is because they came out of the NFC South, which is the worst
And we were telling
division.
you how bad that schedule was,
Yeah.
and how it was going to kind of screw some people's draft choices up because of it.
Yeah, and they were 29th on offense and 32nd on defense. It's not like they were good. The 29th for total sacks. They need to move up or get obviously they might take a edge at their spot, but if they get the opportunity to move up for Abdul Carter, I think it's a slam dunk and you have to go for it.
Yeah, and as of right now, their odds in terms of what position they are targeting, D-line/edge is plus 100 and linebacker is plus 130. But the reason it is plus 130 to linebacker and plus 100 to edge is because there's one specific player that is designated as a linebacker that is heavily being mocked there. So if his position was edge, or if that guy was off the table, it is exponentially going to be like 10-1 difference based on D-line/edge versus the next best position.
We'll talk about them in a minute, but wide receiver 1 or edge is my kind of feel for them. But yeah, so these guys are top 3. They're minus 700 at the lowest. So they're all going to go here in these 3 spots, I believe. And I think it makes a lot of sense for these teams. We might have, and another thing, we might have Abdul Carter over Travis Hunter, but we're not going to put him down as not a good, pick. He's definitely a great pick for the Browns here. Mm-hmm. Next up.
All right.
Got a pair.
Yeah, a couple of O-linemen. These two have been our top 2 O-linemen, I think, throughout all 3.
I don't
Josh
Simmons, but
yeah, Josh. Well, in terms of it,
yeah.
But where we've had mocked, I think these two have been up the top for the most part. Other than I think our first mock had Kelvin Banks kind of mixed and squeezed in there.
Well, Will Campbell's actually been this pick 3 times in a row.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, Will Campbell stayed to New England. It is so kind of almost certain that DraftKings, you can't even bet on position to draft. So basically, I think New England unfortunately has been boxed in a corner. I kind of want to compare it to similarly to if you follow basketball. Atlanta Hawks were like the 10th worst team, and they had the 10th best odds to win the lottery. They won the lottery, but last year was well regarded as the worst draft to win the lottery because basically the first best player was like the 8th best player. And Zach Ricochet had a decent year, really solid player, but he is only an off-ball guy, kind of two-way player that is never going to live up to that billing as the number 1 pick. This tackle class is kind of similar, where a lot of people are saying, this is like this best tackle is like the 5th best tackle compared to both, this year and last year's class. So they're boxed into a corner because people know that they need a lineman, and I don't think that really anybody is going to, allow them a bailout of, hey, we'll trade down for you because we're trading up for X. Now, there is still rumors because there potentially could be a blockbuster trade in the top 5, and this is a spot worthy of doing it. We've kind of flirted with that before, but I think if they are boxed into the corner, they have to stick and pick. I think Will Campbell's the guy.
Yeah, I'm going to blame Cam if they do trade down because at the end of the day, we went back and forth. I thought, trading down made a lot of sense. And he was like, I feel like they're the team that's going to stay here. And I was like, okay. And so we stayed. And it does make sense. Yeah, I mean, like both ways. But New England picks the top left tackle, if you would, for what consensus big boards are showing in Will Campbell. Even if we think it's a reach, he is our 11th player on our big board. It's still, one of those, at the end of the day, if he has to go into guard, I think he's an all-pro guard, perennial all-pro guard. I do see issues with his arm length and things, but talking about, the reason, there is a reason I put these 2 guys on this page and didn't show you 5, but let's go over to 6.
Yeah, because that one has almost become a consensus, and that is one of the first positions that we are just like, we don't feel it. Like it's now in our loins. We're not thinking, GT to Las Vegas, and it's ballooned up to like minus 210 right now, and it's just there's too much like this is the pick, and that's what turned us away from it. So we ended up going with Armand Mimbu, who is the 2nd highest odds to be taken by the Raiders. Essentially, they need some O-line upgrade. They went from a top 10 O-line last year, injury plagued, and then lost a couple, and then all of a sudden now it's like they need some help up front. And so Mimbu is a guy that I think fits the mold of what they want to do, because at the end of the day, Pete Carroll team wants to be smash mouth and get better up front and uglier up front. And so kind of it feels like a O-line or D-line pick if it's not GT, and that's why we ended up going this way.
Yeah, and I think that with this pick, like I liked DJ Glaze, Delmar Glaze, that came in last year in the 2024 draft. He was a 3rd rounder for us. He actually played pretty well. It's more so, just trying to find the right five guys. And I think Mimbu, if he has to play guard, he could do that. But I think just getting the right five guys together is kind of the trick. And I love his like stylisticness. He's one of the highest floor players I've seen for his age, because I think he just has such a good floor, especially for being so young. So I think that's really important here. And I think the Raiders, I don't think that Ashton Genty is going to the Raiders. And I have said that for the whole time. Just doesn't feel right. And now,
if no one else was on it, I would try to sell you more on it. But because everybody's
finally,
on it, that
right?
just makes it feel
now
like
they're just listening to me.
Not happening. But we'll get into why we put him somewhere else. Pretty shortly.
Yeah, let's go over to it. That was our offensive line tandem. Now we have the reason Ashton Genty is not going 6 to the Raiders. He's going 5 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville. I don't know if I believe this, and I fought up and down. Okay, guys, but it is what it is. Like this one actually, Cam believes that Genty was going top 10 really early, and he's going to be absolutely right. So
yes, I was.
Absolutely, sure, but I don't know that it's Jacksonville at 5. I think Jacksonville has other areas that they could address, and that's kind of my thing. But at the same time, Liam Cohen's there. He wants offense, and Ashton Genty or Tedero McMillan are going at 5, and that's just what it is. And I just can't. I'm just gonna have to get over it.
That is the crazy thing about this, and this is the point in the draft where we had to start over. If you couldn't tell already, because otherwise Mason Graham, who was at 5 to us, he had been that in the mock 1.0. Oh, I'm sorry, not 1.0, but 2.0. What would we do? And here, and it would have been a 3 in a row, but all of a sudden the odds flipped overnight. And basically now Genty is minus 130 as of right now to go in the top 5. And the favorite position for Jacksonville to be drafted, it's running back at plus 120. And Mason Graham has fallen all the way to plus 220 to be a top 5 pick. Basically his top 10 odds, for that matter, have been cut in half. So something's happening. And all of a sudden Jacksonville, there was just too many guys, Albert Breer, Adam Schefter, Todd McShay, that were saying that they're wanting touchdowns. And they need to salvage what is supposed to be Trevor Lawrence and saving this franchise, and one way to do that is get somebody that can just turn a program around and score 27 touchdowns or whatever he did this year.
The reason I push back is it's not a top 5 need. It's not even a top 5 need. Like wide receiver, sure, you could be like, hey, I want sure. Tight end, sure. Evan Ingram's gone. Why not? Put Tyler Warren there. But it's just not even a top 5 need. They have one of the worst secondaries in football. And that's a need, but obviously you won't get here. But there's other things that I'm just like, okay, adding Ashton Genty to a bad team isn't what's going to help them get better. It's like, I think when it comes to elite running backs and you want to draft running backs high, if you're going to draft a running back high, to maximize them, you have to have a good O-line and you have to have good supporting play. That is not what's happening here.
Right.
Brian Thomas is the offense. That's it. So that's my biggest pushback. But look, this is a projective mock. I'm not picking this pick. This is a pick that we're seeing a lot of. We're kind of on board with. And I think, and Cam, makes a lot of good points, and that he was actually the one that was like pushing me to change my pick, because as you can tell, I'm fighting this one. But
the thing is, it's such a. I talked about the trickle-down effect that
it's pivotal.
The JJ trade happened last year, and how that was going to change some things, but basically it's just, hey, quarterback there, quarterback here, and we ended up being right on the player to team combo.
Right,
they just didn't trade up.
They moved one spot.
Okay,
they moved one spot.
But this one changes everything throughout the rest of the top 10, because not only is it, hey, Genty's off the board, it's like, oh, I'm going in an entirely different way or direction, and I'm going to have to navigate, because this is a trade down draft, and so it's like, my guy's not here, I got to do some moves we'll say this time and time again, hey, they need this position, but it's probably better to target it around 2. Yeah. And it's just going to change the landscape of things. And my biggest thing was just, I couldn't see him falling past 8. And we initially did have a trade up for him, which it could very well be a thing.
Yeah.
But he's going in this 5 to 7 range to me. But it's not the Raiders. To me, it's not the Jets, unless we hear Breece Hall, traded before.
Right.
And it's either Jacksonville or a trade up. But it's happening. That's kind of what I feel comfortable saying.
And just wait for the trickle down effect because we have, wait till we get to the Bears, which foreshadowing. The Bears are an interesting team because
Yeah.
they're I don't know the odds for
They're
them. Do you know their odds?
for
Let's see.
position targeted?
Pick
or?
10 is plus 430 now. It was plus 150 earlier. So him going pick for Ashton Genty going pick 10, it was plus 150 earlier. Now it's plus 430. So that's
Massive
telling you
change.
that it's going down, and there's no way the Bears are going to get him at 10. So they'd have to move up. That could be to New England. I'm just saying. I added that earlier,
No, it could be.
but it's just he's a polarizing player in this draft, along with the quarterbacks, Shedeur and Jackson Dart and things like that later on.
And one thing I did want to point out is a lot of people, with GNT being a top 5 pick, go look at the last, decade or maybe 13 years now, if you want to include a bust, of guys that just did not pan out whatsoever. And the only name that is a top 10 running back that was drafted over the last 13 years that you could definitively say just like awful decision was Trent Richardson.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, Zeke, even though it was probably shorter than it probably should have been, or Leonard Fournette similarly, they instantly improved their teams
Yes.
to where, rookie year Leonard Fournette had the Jags in the AFC title game. Zeke, rushing leader.
might have been the
rookie year,
best running back in the league that year.
going into year 2, and then, debauchery and all that stuff. But Christian McCaffrey, Todd Gurley, all these guys that, maybe not have been long-term, but this is not a draft where it's like, oh, I've got to ignore this top 3 player in this class because I have to pick the 20th player to fix the need. Sometimes you just got to, stick and pick the best player available, and, that's what we're doing. Again, Jacksonville does not need a running back.
No.
But they need productivity in that offense. He's the most likely guy to me to help fix that in the short term.
Yeah, the way Cam sold me is actually saying that, our big board is Genty is a blue chip and Tedero McMillan's a second rounder. It's like, okay, sure. I get it. I get what you're saying. Mm-hmm. It's not that I like it, but I get it.
And I also don't want to say, oh, yeah, GNT at 6 is fine, but he can't be a top 5 or 4 pick.
Right.
Like, it's 2 spots. Guys.
It's not.
2 spots.
It's a lot. It's a lot. When the Raiders are 6, okay?
It is if somebody's trading up. But,
all
right. But
let's go
on. That's the polarizing one.
Yeah.
Please get in those comments and tell us what you think. I know GNT is a polarizing guy. He's going to be a 101 in dynasty drafts, all that fun stuff. But tell us, do you like the pairing, the fit? Do you have the vibes of the same thing, or do you really truly think he is going to fall to a Chicago or something of that nature, or ideally Dallas?
Okay.
But I mean that we're way past that. But yeah, get in the comments. Let us know what you think. But yeah, let's jump forward.
Tyler Warren. Going to the New York Jets. We kind of went back and forth because there have been reports, and I think that these reports are legit. Don't get me wrong. But the reports are because, you're bringing in Aaron Glenn. He's probably going to try to pick a defensive player. That's the biggest rumor right now for the Giants. I think that, we're going to take our big board and probably consensus big board and just say that this guy and Tyler Warren is ahead of the other guys that we're possibly going for, edge possible. So that was my big thing and how I kind of pushed it because I think they need offense long before they need defense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you hear 10 bullet points, this is what I'm hearing. You can't just naturally believe every single one.
Smoke.
You also have to infer, like, okay, where the odds also saying.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the one where I understand the point and premise that, a guy like Todd McShay brought up of, it's Aaron Glenn. He wants the nasty. He wants defense. And, he's mentioned a bunch of guys. But the odds aren't reflecting that.
Mm-hmm.
Their odds right now, minus 175 to go offensive lineman. But guess what? That is for Amon Minmu. He's off the board now. So how do you got to pivot? Well, you're going to pivot to the next best available odds of where they're going, and it'll fall to exponentially live if Minbu's off the board. It's tight end. And Tyler Warren, it sounds like it just makes a lot of sense. If it is an offensive player, it's going to be Warren. It just kind of depends on, is this going to be the start of the next tier of edges, or are they going to go and help out Justin Fields?
Tyler Warren is... So I have a list of needs. I did a list of 5 needs for every team. Tight end is the number 1 need on this team. Mm-hmm. Jeremy Ruckert and Stone Smart, are very, very low on the totem pole when it comes to just tight end ability in an offense. Tyler Conklin's departure, it's a deep tight end class. So if you didn't want to go with the first guy, that's just fine. I'm fine with that. Right. Get someone in the second round, Mason Taylor. Elijah Arroyo, whatever, that's fine too. But I just mean, you have to address this position. And if you want to do it with this pick because Armand Minbu comes off the board, I think it makes a ton of sense. And that's why I was we went back and forth because Jahdae Barron's being talked about here. Edge 2 is being talked about here. Mm-hmm. And I was just like,
and
look,
even Mason
talent.
Graham being on the board, which,
yeah.
2 days ago wouldn't have even been a thought.
Yeah.
All of a sudden is a thing, and then they have to figure it out. But I mean, Tyler Warren, his odds have actually improved slightly. He was like right around to pick him to be a top 10 pick, and then now it's up to 175. Mainly, I think his floor is Chicago if G&T is off the board or they did not trade up for him. But Chicago's crossing their fingers saying, I want a couple screw ups so somebody like him can fall to us. But unless they go up and get him, they might be on the short stick of things.
Yeah,
Not
Chicago's
everybody's gonna
sad
be
for
happy
sure.
in this top 10.
Yeah, Chicago's very sad right
That's
now.
one thing I want to say.
Let's go to the next grouping. It's
Bang, bang.
Yep. Two Georgia edge players. One's a linebacker, one's a real edge. And this is that linebacker conversation Cam was trying to have at the beginning where Carolina is about pick'em odds for a linebacker or edge, basically, because Jalen Walker is considered a linebacker on most books. Now, I don't think that Carolina is very simple. It's wide receiver 1 or edge. Like I said earlier, DJ Wanham, Jadeveon Clowney, both 2026 undrafted free agents. Unrestricted free agents. They have to replace and add rotational pieces. If you wanted to go Jalen Walker, who everybody is loving, and I'm just not there, which doesn't matter because this is a mock draft, you go Jalen Walker at 8. And he is, what's his odds? You told me top 8 odds are really, really high for him.
Top 8? Well, at least being the 8th pick in general, Jalen Walker is plus 130.
Okay.
So pretty heavy favorite compared to the next guy, which is Mikael Williams, coincidentally. But yeah, Jalen Walker, this is one of the chalky ones that we're just kind of going to stick with. For some reason, a lot of people, even though he's much lower on our big boards, they are just infatuated with him. And even though we just kind of have the fear a little bit of just he is too positionless for our liking and taste, and doesn't have the size to reflect, oh, I could literally put him anywhere and he'll just go right away and just become an all-pro, which is kind of what you need to salvage a top 8 pick worthy of doing so. But it sounds like he's going somewhere in the top 8. Every team that needs an edge likes him in this range between 6 and 9. So he's going to go to one of them, and we just kind of stuck with the chalk here. Mikael Williams has been on such a roller coaster because he went first mock, 8th overall. He was our edge too. And then he went all the way into the 20s. And then some people are like, oh, no, he's kind of falling out of favor. And then all of a sudden, now he's just rocketed up into, being minus money to be a top 10 pick. And the Saints apparently are just in love with him, and he is a heavy favorite. No longer is it Shedeur Sanders. Again, overnight, these odds can change dramatically. But 2 days ago, Shedeur was the favorite at like plus 280 to the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
He is now 12-1 to go 9. And Mikael Williams has vaulted all the way to be plus 370. The next best guy is Mason Graham, which a lot of people are like, he wouldn't be there. But the fact is, if both are available, they're still putting Mikael as a favorite to be picked there.
Yeah.
So that's very telling in itself.
Which I also, if you want a Jalen Walker breakdown, go watch our big board because we dove into him for like 8 minutes.
Right.
So go watch that big board video. I would love to have more people get in there and tell us what they think about what we said about him. But on the other side, like you said, Mikael fits, and that's the big thing. I think that he's going to be, and Brandon Staley coming in and getting a guy on defense that they're going to enjoy. In Mikael, they were 18th in sacks last year, which is fine, but they were 30th in total yards on defense last year. They have 2 third-round picks in this draft, so they have the depth. And it's kind of like the rumors between the Shedeur versus Jackson Dart. Neither of them are going to be picked here, and that just is what it is. Defensive line is what they need. Defensive, if you go edge or interior, like you were saying with Mason Graham, their interior defensive line is awful right now. I mean, they have literally their first round draft pick had a 36.5 grade, which was 114th out of 118 defensive linemen.
No bueno.
It's awful. So they have to get better, and this is the way to do it, is just getting a uber athletic guy that has untapped potential that you can try to find a way to get there.
And if you are the Saints and you're picking between Mikael versus Mason Graham, who's our number 2 player on our big board, it's going to improve your team immensely, and we're going to really like the pick regardless, whoever they go with. But I will say 2 important things have come out over the last week or so about the Saints, and it's the fact that the odds have shifted so much to this is not a quarterback pick.
Right.
And then the second thing of that is they are much more in love with Jackson Dart versus Shedeur Sanders, which is kind of contrary to what people would thought once, it was known that Shadir is probably not going to be a giant at 3. And all of a sudden, it's like, yeah, you don't put out reports of quote unquote hot and heavy for Jackson Dart if you're not really, really one sided in terms of the argument between one or the other.
Well, I will say, we just talk about their quarterback situation. Derek Carr, injured, missed multiple weeks last season, and then shoulder injury just seems legit. And then, if you just look at their backups, Jake Hayner won the worst starting quarterback award last year, which is embarrassing, first off. And then second off, Spencer Rattler had a 52.0 grade, which is 42nd out of 42. That's last place.
That's last.
So
you got the
can't
worst,
get much
you
worse.
got the worst, and then the other worst in another.
Yeah, in a different way. And then you have no Derek Carr.
Yeah.
You have no Derek Carr.
But yeah, we might not be done with them. Who knows? But the Saints still are probably going to take a quarterback at some point in this draft.
Yes.
But it's just feel comfortable saying that hey, they don't love anybody enough to go this high on him. So that's why we went the way we did.
Yep. All right, let's talk about a mock trade.
First trade.
Yeah, we told you the Bears. They got screwed. They're pretty pissed off, and they can't get tight end here. They can't get Ashton Genty, so they're going to move back. They're going to let the Indianapolis Colts jump up because Indy has one of the biggest needs, like comparatively on their team to any team in the draft, and that is tight end. Colson Loveland goes to the Indianapolis Colts. Indy's tight end group is so bad that is their number one need. It's said that they don't use tight ends. They had 74% of their plays run out of 11 personnel last year, but their tight end room is so bad. Ogletree, Woods, Mallory, Mo Alley Cox, all those guys are tight end 3s and 4s on most teams. So let's put some, money behind. Well, yeah, let's put something behind it. Get a guy that is loved in the league right now.
And this is something that I was like kind of early on the Genty's going top 10. You were early on the fact of like, hey, Colson Loveland's not getting down to the top 15, and that had to correlate with, hey, Tyler Warren's going top 10, so that somebody like Indy, who everybody and their mom is mocking with a tight end throughout this whole offseason. But the thing is, in this one, they had to get up to take him to avoid, any kind of thing. Last year, they kind of waited because they were I don't remember if they were our final mock team for Brock Bowers, but everybody knew if you wanted Brock Bowers, you had to get it before Indy. And then all of a sudden, the Raiders were like, no, we got him. It's okay.
We have a tight end.
Yeah,
Whatever.
It don't matter. But they were heavy into getting him this past year, and then you have teams like Denver and the Chargers who I think could also flirt with moving in front of Indy. So to me, it's if this is the position that you're targeting, there is a drop off after this, even though you got a pretty solid class overall. Mason Taylor's getting some kind of end of first round buzz all of a sudden as well. But yeah, Colson Loveland to Indy, it will spice up things and kind of help try to salvage what is supposed to be a great career for Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, well,
or Daniel Jones.
They really don't. I mean, they have needs, but like it's not like they have a ton of needs. They need quarterback, really. Let's be honest. But tight end is something that I think they can go for.
And if the board went a different way, I know Chicago fans are disappointed. But if it was a way the board going to the favor, they're crossing their fingers. They're praying, I want G&T or Tyler Warren to fall to me, and that just didn't happen in this scenario. So. With that said, after that, it's, hey, they stick and pick Colson Loveland.
Yeah.
Or,
well, that was actually what I was going to mention is they could have gone Colson Loveland here, but at the same time, they have a tight end that they've signed and has multiple years on his contract. So there's no point in going Colson Loveland and taking like the next best guy when you could just move back and possibly get a guy that, will still be there. Because that's the biggest thing. It's like you're going to get some of these players that are going to be in different ranges. And Chicago moving back to 14 finds a range that fits a little bit better for them.
Yeah, they're kind of all over the place too, for what it's worth. I mean, plus 210 to draft a running back. This is Chicago. Plus 250 for a tight end. Plus 250 for an offensive lineman, or plus 350 for a D-line / edge. So they're just like, hey, they're the team that's purely like, I don't know how the board's going to fall to them, or I don't know if they're going to trade up, because remember they have two early second-round picks, both 39 and 41. So they got extra ammunition if they truly do want to move up for a G&T or Warren or even somebody else. Like they have the capital to do it. And honestly, surprisingly, for a fourth place team, not a ton of needs to address. So I think
Right.
they can. That adds to them being a little more aggressive. And then their GM Ryan Poles, he was the one with the soundbite today saying, "Hey, I expect a lot of chaos today or in this draft about trades and stuff. So just kind of keep an eye on Chicago is all I'll say."
Yeah, they like you said, they don't have a ton of trades because they really address them in free agency.
Mhm.
Let's talk about the top 10, if I can get to it. Well, I guess it's 4 through 10. Will Campbell going to the Patriots, Ashton Genty going higher than expected. Armand Membu to the Raiders, Tyler Warren to the Jets, Jalen Walker and teammate Michael Williams get the next 2 picks, and then Colson Loveland to the Colts after a trade. That was fun. That was a good start.
Good start. We're rocking and rolling. Now somebody who has fallen and can't get up, he falls right into a great situation. San Francisco, you were the one that sold me on.
I was
just like
fighting
they're.
you. No, I'm
I
just
mean,
kidding.
it wasn't
No,
fighting
it wasn't
because
much fight.
They lost like so many
Everything.
linemen. They lost so many DBs, and it was just like I was on the DB side, and then you're just like, no, listen, it's really bad.
It's bad. No, it's bad.
And in this scenario, Mason Graham again, our player 2 on the board, but as of yesterday or 2, consensus top 5 pick, top 6 pick. They follow 11. First fantastic value pick of this draft. There's not going to be a lot of those to me because of just how little of first round grades there are
Talent.
for a lot of these up tier guys. He's a blue chip guy to us, and so getting him at 11, I think, is a really really strong get for San Francisco, who does have a ton of needs to solve. They do have a ton of picks, but they don't need to move up or down because they had a guy fall into the lot.
Yeah, San Francisco has the 5th overall draft value. If you just look at the chart, so they could do some things moving around, but they do need those players because, like you were saying, like I tried to push to you, I was like, look, they have Nick Bosa and they have a bunch of guys basically, and they definitely need to improve their defensive line, both on the edge and in the interior. Basically, looks to me that at 11 you're going to get the best player available for these 2 spots. If Michael Williams, say they flipped, Michael Williams went, or Mason Graham went to 9 and Michael Williams is here, sure, that would be fine.
Yeah,
So-
I think their true nightmare scenario comes down, or not necessarily a nightmare, but just like when they start to be like, all right, we got to change our game up, is if one of Warren or Ginty does not go there, and it forces all of the defensive linemen / edges, and Mason Graham and Mikel and Walker and
Mike Green and
like they're all
Yeah.
gone at 11. They're like, okay, we're gonna have to trade down and figure it out.
yeah, we have picks, so why didn't we just trade up earlier? That was that's gonna be one of the conversations we'll have to
Yeah,
have
it's
too.
interesting because they got so many extra picks due to the compensatory.
Compensatory,
There we go. Compensatory picks. They got several, including 2 third-rounders, I believe. So they have a ton of extra stuff to flirt with. So I'm surprised that they're not a team that's being linked to trade up rumors.
Right, for sure. Let's go to Dallas because we
right.
didn't trade Dallas. Sorry, guys.
No,
I know that.
I want to so bad, but
So
it's
does
just
so does our other friend that's a Dallas fan. He
Okay.
called me the other day. He's like, "Can we trade back, please?" They don't listen to
No.
me, is what he said. But here we go.
I'm not happy, but I'm less unhappy than what
Fair.
other mocks have said. I mean, Tedero McMillan is the receiver that Dallas I would not be upset at.
Yeah.
Right now, he's basically a pretty heavy favorite to be in the top. What was it? 17 was his line.
No, that was.
Oh,
he's,
that was
he's
Gold.
11
I'm
and a
sorry.
half.
11 and a half. That's his line. And what are the odds on that? Do you
I
know
don't
that?
know him off the top of my
Okay,
head. They're close to a pick 'em though.
So
I know that.
Dallas's minus 250 to go wide receiver, and it's
They're-
one of those similar one.
You want a good one?
Go ahead.
They're plus 125 to pick Tedero and McMillan on FanDuel right now.
And the thing is,
Plus
kinda-
125.
kind of similar to what I said about, or what we said about GT not going to the Raiders. This seems too chalky.
That's crazy.
And the thing is, Dallas has so many different routes that they're just like they can resolve a wide receiver 2 and 3
Right, yeah. For
with
sure.
other spots. Like there's several guys that they've had for visits, and on top of that, there's still some vets like a Keenan Allen that are hey, you'll do for a year kind of thing. Like they've kind of recycled some veteran receivers at the 2 or 3 in recent years. So Tet is what it is, but I would not prefer this if I was a fan, or I am a fan by default. But
Right now.
if this happens, like a lot of people for Dallas are going to be happy. I wouldn't be as happy. The thing is, this is different from like a couple years back when CeeDee Lamb fell to them at 17, they were not taking a receiver by any means. But it was, hey, arguably best receiver that's a top 7 player on big boards fell to 17. Yeah, that was the Henry Ruggs guy right there, guys.
Hey.
Yeah, he was like 12-1 to go receiver 1. It was a whole thing. But this one is, hey, a lot of people are starting to push him down boards. So forcing him up, it's like, yes, this is a need, but it's not, to me, the most pressing need to where we have to go chalky Dallas receiver, but we did anyway because we didn't know what else to do.
Well, and like I said, he's plus 125. Like those odds
heavy.
are intense. So
it does make me, feel a little better. Jane Slater, if you're a Cowboy fan, you know her as a well-regarded reporter. She kind of linked 3 different names that weren't Tet. 2 of them being, an O lineman and a D lineman, which to me, big preference because sucked against the run. You had Hall of Famer right guard that retired, and you had a Hall of Famer left tackle that you did not replace correctly. So either of those are probably, if I had to choose, would be our preference. In the what would we do? I think you went Kelvin Banks.
I did.
So
which plays both.
Yeah, I would be more than happy if that was the route that they went. But she also has entertained like, hey, a trade back could be a thing, and stick and pick a best available wide receiver then, or you would get an additional day 2 pick, and you have a early day 2 pick as well that could give you some flexibility to move up for like a Ibuka or something if he were to drip a little bit. So kind of different scenarios. This is one that I hope we're wrong on, but at the end of the day, we just kind of stuck and picked because it was going to be so much harder to figure out receiver if we didn't go him right here.
Plus 490 to go to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Just to put that out there.
That's a pretty big jump.
Yeah.
It's like 10-1.
Yeah. Plus 600 to go to Carolina. So now he's pushing back into the first.
That was one thing I wanted to mention.
Top 15.
I forgot to mention when we were talking about Carolina is that Tet is actually favored over a Mason Graham now too. So that kind of helps contribute a little bit to Mason Graham falling down a little bit.
For sure. Let's go to the next team who did get Kelvin Banks Jr. Okay, Miami can't protect. We had this conversation the other day. Miami has to protect Tua. Tua has had so many concussions, obviously. Liam Eichenberg had a 53.1 grade. He was 69th out of 77 guards. He's a free agent after 2026. And then James Daniels, who they brought in from Pittsburgh, who was supposed to be a guy, tore his Achilles. So he's a 2028 guy, but it doesn't matter when you tore your Achilles. Like, we don't know what that's going to look like. Taron Armstead, retired. They're going to replace him with Patrick Paul, who we kind of liked, and he was a second rounder last year. He had a 44.9 grade, though, which is terrible. So you can get an upgrade at either spot, and this is your upgrade right here.
And kind of similar to Mikel, another guy that's kind of gone up and down a little bit on our mocks throughout because we had him initially at a top 10 pick. Then we threw him all the way into the mid-20s, and then now he's risen to 13.
And he's supposed to be here. This is where he should be.
We've said that before, even in our previous episodes, is just like, hey, put some respect on his name. We're overthinking it a little bit, and I don't know if he's going to be a tackle or a guard, but he's going to be a very good lineman for a long, long time. Yeah. And all of a sudden now his odds as like a 13.5, I think was his line, was like minus 400 as of this morning. That's what really kind of propelled us to be like, all right, Miami is the team.
Thank God that they stopped being disrespectful, right?
Right.
Like, took them long enough.
Yeah, this is not one of whatever you want to believe in Mikel Williams, like, that remains to be seen. But Kelvin should be here for sure, and we like Mikel as well. He's like, I think 20. He's
right at 20. Right
at 20 for our big board. A little bit of a reach, but at the same time we understand it because we do envision the upside that he sees. Kelvin Banks is one of the safe guys. It fits a need, and I don't know if there's a whole lot of offensive lineman teams outside the top 10 that could really use him more than a Miami Dolphins.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
And then the last thing I wanted to say was Houston apparently is really infatuated with him as well.
But
if his odds are minus 400 to be in the top 13, you got to move up.
Yeah.
You can move up to 12, and we'll take your 25th pick. But who knows?
Absolutely. We did break down Kelvin Banks also. If you want to go check out that breakdown, it was on the Big Board video because he lost his first round grade. But at the same time, like, he is our 13th overall player. Guess what? He's 13th on this board. Makes a lot of sense to us. There's no argument here. Now, we talked about Chicago moving back.
Who did they inherit?
Here it is. Your guy.
Martin Hampton.
Your guy.
Another guy or situation of just like, this is too damn chalky. is Omarion Hampton to 20.
Yeah, no, I completely
And
agree
the
with that.
odds actually, this week heavily flipped to be outside the top 19, which is what was different. Like a week ago when there was a lot of flirtations of him going 12 to Dallas. But even if Chicago sticks and picks at 10 and Ginty's off the board, I would not put it past him if they were just like, you know what, screw it. We want Omarion over a Tyler Warren. I would not be surprised whatsoever.
Yeah.
And the thing is, trading back, he's going to be there in this scenario unless Dallas were to take him, which would be cool. But odds are not reflecting that at all right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to Miami. He's not going to San Francisco. So he will be there. The thing is, as long as you stay in front of Denver and Denver does not move up for him, you're going to be able to get him. And so that's why I kind of like this fit.
The odds that are reflecting right now, Denver is a minus 150 to take a running back. Mm-hmm. And if he's not there and you're going to say, okay, we're going to push for Travion, okay, sure, maybe. But I think, and then Chicago is a plus 230 odds to take him. And that kind of completes their team. That's what we were saying earlier. They don't need a lot of stuff. Like, they don't need that much. They do have those 2 second-round picks. Moving back gets them even more. So this just gives them an opportunity to, get rotational pieces all around, get a starting running back that is legit. This is how you maximize running back. We were talking about how Ashton Genty's going to a situation where he's not going to be maximized. This is a maximized running back right here. You get Ben Johnson with his creativity. You get a good O-line that is just revamped. And I know y'all want to talk about how left tackle, Broderick, the whole thing, Braxton Jones isn't that good. Well, he's actually been pretty good. So I know that some people want to offensive tackle. Well, he's been fine. Go maximize the team that you have right now. That's what you're going to do. Caleb and Rome, they're both on short contracts right now and make it easier to get players in. They are a team that's legit. No matter what you think, I have Chicago friends that are like, well, I just have to see it. And I agree. But at the same time, sure. Yeah.
I think we were a year early. I think that was well established when they, kept on missing field goals and Hail Marys at the end and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, we liked the town a lot. But bold take scenario where Ginty goes to Jacksonville, Omarion Hampton goes to Chicago. In fantasy football, price does not matter. I would take Omarion Hampton 9 times out of 10. Over Ashton Ginty. Yeah. And the only way it doesn't work out is if there's an injury, which obviously that can happen at that position. But I just think the upside is there to be just as good statistically, and it's a much better situation, like you said. Environment, linemen, add 3 interior Pro Bowlers.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Sure.
And it's going to immensely affect something where DeAndre Swift for, 6 weeks was a, fringe RB1. And it's just going to... It's going to be a thing that I really push if this were to happen.
And I also think, I know that Ben Johnson loves two-headed monsters in the backfield, but he hated DeAndre Swift. So I think that's a situation you need to monitor. Yeah, if you're going to go with DeAndre Swift, because no matter who the rookie running back is, honestly, I would pick the rookie running back over DeAndre Swift.
If DeAndre Swift stays as a Bear, which, he's already been punted away from, Ben Johnson before, because he was the scat back Jahmyr Gibbs and that was the expectation for him as an early second rounder, and he did not pan out that way. They shipped him off, replaced him with the top 12, overdrafted at the time of Jahmyr Gibbs with just signing David Montgomery and back-to-back years with 30 touchdowns between them. So if they were to stay with DeAndre as a Bear, it makes no sense to do, we'll do Travion Henderson and him, because a lot of people are like, if they don't go running back in the first pick, they've put Travion Henderson at 39 or 41 and are like, as a tandem, that doesn't really work for what Ben Johnson wants to do. If you're going to just move the Detroit system over, they want a guy that you can just
Caleb Johnson, Quinshon Judkins, Cam Scattaboo.
Yeah, with DeAndre Swift. Now, if DeAndre Swift is traded during the draft like he was before when he went to Philly, all bets are off. Then Travion Henderson and inherit another, whoever's free agency or draft the second one.
Yeah, just draft 2.
Who knows? But yeah, it's a whole lot of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
Let's go over, because running back, of course, is tantalizing, but it's not the most important position when it comes to the draft itself.
Yep.
Here's some important positions, though. Edge, baby, edge. You just look at these two guys. Look, I love Mike Green, and I'm all over Mike Green on my, the big board. If you go look at the big board, Mike Green's got a first-round grade. Shamar's in the 30s. But at the end of the day, we understand that Shamar has the upside to be an all-pro, because he does have the athleticism that you just cannot teach. So that's why he's going here to Atlanta. Atlanta makes bad picks sometimes,
The,
and I think they kind of fit together.
the yeah, heavy favorite of being a D line or edge here, and
Hmm.
obviously every single mock that we've done, it might have been a different one, but it's been edge, and we've been trying to do that since 2020, and we're just gonna keep doing it until they listen to us. But yeah, this is the run of the next tier of edges.
Hmm.
We just don't know the order it's going in. We've said that before. If it's Mike Green instead, not bad an eye. If it's Shamar Stewart or if it's James Pierce coming up here, they're going edge or even a D lineman, but probably more so edge. Just don't know which one. But Shamar is a interesting name because a lot of people, his 10.0 RAS score is just very tantalizing. And then Cincinnati all of a sudden now minus 175 to go D line / edge.
Hmm.
Mike Green, one of the guys that is one of the most productive guys in the college football season last year in terms of rushing the quarterback, but then there's character concerns. So who's going to take a gamble? Probably somebody like Cincinnati that just needs the best talent available, and they just need productivity, especially if possibly Trey Hendrickson is not going to be there. That is still an unknown.
Yeah,
and
he might
Sam
get
Hubbard
traded.
has been retired earlier this offseason, so they need an upgrade in some way, shape, or form on the defensive line. So if it's him, if it's Walter Nolan, if it's James Pierce, back character guy, it doesn't matter. Just pick one of them, and you'll upgrade your defense.
Yeah, and I was looking at some odds today, and so one of the first guy to get traded in the NFL draft for like a pick, Trey Hendrickson is currently plus 500 to get traded first. So him and my Mark Andrews are both plus 500, and I want to say Jair's the favorite right now. So out of those guys, I thought that was an interesting stat. I'd never really seen that before.
For sure.
But yeah, so just adding.
Plus 500 doesn't seem that long for a specific player being traded, though.
I agree. It's very weird whole thing. But yeah, so what was I saying? Sorry, Mike Green is the pass rusher that I want on my team. Is kind of the thing, and putting him opposite Trey Hendrickson, they literally were 25th in sacks last year. They lost games because they tried to play 40 to 40 games. This is how you get better. Put somebody that's actually, ready to go out there. They need, if on my needs, it's edge, D-line, safety. Top 3 needs are edge, D-line, safety. So they're going to have to address as many of those spots as possible throughout the draft, and that's the big thing for them.
And the biggest thing is both of these teams have had top 30 visits with both of these guys, and several. Mike Green, if this is what would we do, would obviously be the pick at 15 because he's a top 10 player on a big board. Shamar obviously is outside the top 20, so very big difference between the two. But both situations just make a whole lot of sense. And based on Mike Green's odds, I think it was set at 18.5, right?
It was set at
to
18
the
and a half,
over,
I believe. Yeah.
Interestingly enough, obviously we put the under because of the run of edges that we're seeing, but at the end of the day, he's being kind of trending up, or down in draft in terms of the draft. But Shamar obviously has been just kind of living, breathing, and dying somewhere in the middle of the first round the entire process since the combine. So that's why we went the way we did.
All right, and then next up, the Arizona Cardinals. We're sandwiched in between those two last teams. They get a faller, and so there's 2 cornerbacks on the board. We haven't talked about the other one yet. This is Will Johnson going to the Arizona Cardinals. The other one is Jahdae Barron, and he's also falling. Both of them, we see Will Johnson going down, but I also think that, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, it's like Jahdae has such a wide range of outcomes. So with Will Johnson, he's the outside corner, the alpha man and zone corner that'll play on the outside for you. I think Arizona needs to get better at that. Sean Murphy Bunting, a little bit older, could improve that. And then Starling Thomas the fifth, 60.9 grade. Max Melton hasn't really played. Just trying to find players to add to this defense that are good, hoping that Melton and him can become a dynamic duo would be one thing you would want to try to get out of this if you were Arizona, I think.
Yeah, Arizona is kind of interesting because I just think somewhere on some level they need to improve their defense. I'm not going to bat an eye if they went linebacker Jahad Campbell, if they went another edge like a James Pierce, or if they went or at the time Mike Green's on the board as well. Or obviously I am shocked that we ended up landing on both corners being available at 16. Because that's not something that we've really, even flirted with all year, and that just kind of by default how the board
Yeah.
turned out because defensive linemen are getting pushed up. But Will Johnson, obviously a medical thing. It's a, hey, athleticism, how big of a deal is it thing coming off a down year. So it sounds like he's kind of moving down boards a little bit. Jade, it seems like, hey, he's got flirtation with top 7 or 7th overall to the Jets. We mentioned that earlier. But then after that, it's really hard to find the team for him because he is, profiling as a potential inside the box guy or, kind of moving chess piece moving around. And again, San Francisco was a team that we flirted with cornerback before. They're going D lineman. We're locking that in. And after that, it's like, I don't know who's going to take one of these corners. But at the end of the day, everybody has somebody falling. And I think this is one that we're going to look back on and be like, yeah, Arizona got a pretty solid value here.
Yeah, and I was going to say, front 7, like you were saying, like they have to add to that too. But one of the biggest things for them last year was just injuries. Justin Jones played 3 games. Bilal Nichols played 6 games. Darius Robinson played 6 games. So, and then they did add, of course, Josh Sweat, Calais Campbell, Dalvin Tomlinson, all those guys. So I think that they're a little bit better than we saw last year out of that unit. They can still improve. That's not what I'm saying. Like, they still need to get more guys. But at the same time, corner is like, hey, we're old and we need to improve now. And we don't really have anybody back there that's has done well in the last year. So this is why I think it also makes sense and kind of just talking through it. If there is a legit edge player here, go with him. I'm not going to be mad about it. And then let's go to the next one. Seattle Seahawks.
Love this.
Go for it then. You got it.
I mean, Gray's able, this is one that we did not have to have much discussion in either attempt. Final mock. This Gray's able to Seattle. If they're sticking and picking, I think that feels like a really safe bet. Todd McShay came on, and he's heard that basically Gray's able, he's being valued so differently that he is more likely to be closer to the offensive tackle 1 in this class or off the board versus Tyler Booker, who a lot of people had as the next best interior lineman. And, because of that, it's just like, hey, he's going somewhere in the teens. And if Seattle, because they've been struggling to fix this offensive line for years and years and years, if they're going to help Sam Darnold not see ghosts, they have to fix that in some way, shape, or form. And Gray's able, I just think, would be a huge benefit to them.
Yeah, I want to read off some stuff real quick for their interior offensive line because I think Gray's able has to play interior just because of the arm length and things like that. Plus, I think he's nasty, and I think that's the best spot for him, truly. But left guard, Lua Mea, he was a 6th-round rookie, 36.9 grade. That was 77 out of 77. Tough. Center, Oluwatimi, was a 5th-round 2023 guy. He was a 64.2 grade, which was 19th out of 40, a little bit better. And then the right guard, Bradford, was a 4th-round 2023 guy. He had a 48.3, which was 72nd out of 77. This is what we're improving. Now you understand why they need O-line, because they have young, later round players that are not producing, and this is the type of guy that fixes that type of issue for them. I think they could address this position multiple times if they could. So it's one of those things. They do have 2 seconds and 2/3. They have the 7th most draft capital in this class, and they're picking 18th. So they have the ability to help this, offensive line, and then some of the other positions that they need. So, I think that this is a slam dunk. I love Gray Zabel. He was one of my favorite guys early, and he will help this team a lot.
Let me ask you this. You play the role of Seattle GM real quick.
Okay.
You know right now, hey, you know what? We're not going to go offensive lineman here.
Okay.
You don't have to say the player. What is the next position that you're going to be attacking?
Well, I would say I would try to talk about player. If tight end was still here, you can move up for tight end. We did that I did that in our What Would We Do? I think cornerback's interesting because Josh Jobe was a 2024 undrafted free agent. He is the starting corner for them. So corner, you could have gone Jade, but I didn't really feel right about it because Jade kind of plays that nickel, and they already have Witherspoon. And then maybe edge because edge is sort of aging out. With DeMarcus Lawrence coming in, he was injured after week 4 last year. And Wusu injured and played final 5 games, so he was injured too. Mafe Boye is a 2026 free agent.
Reason I asked, though, is because I think it's pretty strong value. If you don't believe in offensive linemen here, they're minus 125, so heavy favorite to go O-line here. But after that, wide receiver is next best at plus 400, and tight end is plus 550.
Yep.
I don't mind tight end, but
Yeah.
in this scenario, they're both off the
Yeah,
board.
that's the problem.
And if they're both off the board, they're not going tight end. They're not going receiver to me
No.
at all. Safety's next best.
Okay,
Okay,
sure.
but D-line edge was plus 800.
I didn't
Attacking
say
that.
safety.
So-
I didn't say wide receiver. These are the positions I have on my needs list, and those aren't them.
I know.
So
D-line edge at
skip
8-1, and then cornerback at 17-1. I thought are really interesting numbers if you want any kind of betting odds or long shots. Again, we feel comfortable with Gray Zabel here, and
Yeah.
you're going to see that a couple times on final mocks. But if you don't believe in that, I think those are pretty solid values.
scenario.
Okay.
Arizona goes Gray Zabel. Will Johnson's still on the board.
Yeah.
It's the same
It's the same
picks,
thing.
but they're just flipped. And Will Johnson gets to 18. I think
17-1.
that's pretty solid odds. Just if you're just thinking about how you should bet it, whatever, that's not bad. That's
Yeah,
that's a good
we'll go
that's a good shout out.
We'll go over pre-draft before we're going to be going live about 30 minutes before the draft starts up.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be talking about any kind of bets that we ended up placing straight up for draft odds and stuff. But I'm just flirting around. I'm seeing updates and stuff like that. So just wanted to bring that up.
Yep. All right, let's go over and we're gonna do a 11 through 18.
Yeah, so Mason Graham falling to the 49ers, really, really solid value there. Tedero and McMillan by default going to Dallas. Please don't have that happen, but we'll just see. Kelvin Banks to Miami. I feel really strong about that pairing. Amari and Hampton, after a trade down for the Bears, they go with their running back of the future, Shamar Stewart. Obviously, Falcons going edge. Will Johnson falls to the Cardinals at 16. Mike Green, one of our favorite edges in the class, is 17 to the Bengals. And then Gray Zabel, offensive line, love the pairing to Seattle.
Perfect pick.
Yeah.
Here it is. Jahad Campbell. Look, I know that everybody has it. And I know that everybody is like, okay, can we see somebody else to Tampa Bay? There are a few things that we think are chalky that are, we don't really like. This is something that we have to like. I don't know how you don't like it. Jahad Campbell, only reason he falls is due to injury. Because he does have the shoulder injury that he had to get surgery for, and he might not start training camp and all this stuff. Well, Tampa Bay has some of their own issues. Levante David is a 2026 unrestricted free agent. He's still good at football, though. That doesn't change. And I think he'll probably retire after this year. He's basically, you're getting a successor. Anthony Walker had his worst season he's ever had at 48.0, which was 81st out of 84 linebackers.
Good.
No. And then they only have 3 linebackers on the team. Servosier Dennis is the other guy. I think that obviously Jahad Campbell comes in and is a starter, helps edge rush, helps do things. He's such a good player, man.
Yeah, we love him. We love the fit. We're just hoping for his sake because we would love the fit. It would be one of our favorite picks if he went to either Tampa Bay or to all the way to 26 to
The Rams, yeah.
Love both of them. He's our 15th player on a big board. Before that shoulder injury came out about his labrum, he was for a day because it literally combine happened, next mocks, and then shoulder injury. But he was starting to be propelled to like Saints at 9 or Carolina at 8, and it made sense. We were like, okay, this is kind of how you're building, and we were like, we're gonna let news marinate in milk, and then we were gonna figure out our 2.0, and then that happened, and we were like, okay, well, he's not gonna go as high as he probably deserves to, but he's still worthy enough to be a top 20 pick.
Yeah, 19 to Tampa Bay, and I just want to put this out there. My needs for them: edge, D-line, linebacker, safety. It's all defense.
Yep.
It's all defense. So I think that's something that they're going to address multiple times in this draft, probably, is the defensive side of the ball. And I really think that this is a great start. Awesome start.
Yep. And that kind of leaves some interesting things as we segue to pick 20 for the Denver Broncos, because everybody has them going running back and Omari Hampton falling. He's not going to be at 20. He just won't be. That's what I'm planting my flag. I'll take a shot if I'm wrong.
Fair.
But
that's a fair shot.
But yeah, we're going to be, we're going to have fun on Thursday night if you guys want to tune in. But yeah, Matthew Golden to 20 to the Broncos. He's a frustrating player to mock. I mean, he's a guy that we like, but just the love is just too high. He's propelled to being a big board wide receiver 1 if you're not counting Travis Hunter in this draft, and people are like him to 12 at Dallas, even if Tet's there, and his prop right now, I think it was 17.5 was the line,
yeah,
and it's juiced to the under,
and
it's just like, where's the fit if it's not Dallas? and Tet is not off the board in the top 5, Dallas takes him. Where's the fit if there's not a trade up? And I don't think somebody would trade up for him. Denver, because they were going so heavy at running back, they're minus favorite to go running back. I could see them flirting with Trayvon Henderson. They also had a visit with him, but I think it's a little early, and I think they just want to upgrade their wide receiver corps that they've just been wide receiver by committee with, day 2 players. Like at the very least, I think he's a very much more secure option in what they're trying to do. It's a tough one. Very tough one. Not a ton of confidence, but it's just he has to go somewhere, and that's kind of where we landed.
And I just want to put this like in perspective. It's minus 150 to go running back right now. So if Omari Hampton's off the board, those odds drop significantly. It's plus 400 to go wide receiver, which is second. Those odds will increase. That's how we kind of got here. The best player available is Jahdae Barron, and we kind of went back and forth because I was like they could go best player available. They don't have a ton of holes, but if you wanted to go with Matthew Golden, it makes sense to me also. It's one of their needs because they, like you said, they have basically Cortland Sutton and a bunch of 3s and 4s. So adding a guy like Matthew Golden, who would be that wide receiver 2 archetype with really good route running and things like that, I think it makes a lot of sense. And him being here, I will put money, or I'll put a shot on it, that Matthew Golden will be at 20. I don't believe that he's going, and I should just put money on it because
so basically,
we're plus money, plus
money
at 7.5, plus money at 17.5, right? So maybe I should just take the over. But I just don't think he's going earlier than this. It doesn't make sense, position, fit, anywhere.
Now, Schefter brought up a bunch of teams that were flirting with trading down in this class. This is not a trade up class like we mentioned. Obviously, there's going to be some values that fall, but Denver was the one team that they mentioned about being a potential trade up team. And while that's interesting and fun to say, usually if there's a team that's, being the only team in rumors, I tend to not side with that. And Ben Albright, who's the guy that he's a Denver beat reporter or insider, he has no confidence or he has no, any kind of inkling that they are even flirting with the trade up. They are sticking and picking according to him, and I'm going to ride with that because I've trusted him over the last few years that I've followed him. So with that said,
sorry, I was going to add, Omari Hampton is plus 115 to Denver. So
too high.
Yeah, and he's plus 650 to the Steelers, which I think is crazy. He's plus 1,200 to the Bears.
I might have to throw.
That's not a bad.
Might have to throw a Lincoln on that.
It's not a bad bet, guys. Yep. Not a bad bet there. We'll throw some small bets everywhere and see what we can make out of it. But no, I don't think that's a bad bet plus 1,200 there because we do think obviously the team that needs running back is Chicago. So why not put the second best running back at Chicago?
Yeah, you can't have Chicago as the favorite to draft a running back, and GT is going to be a heavy favorite to not be there, and then say, oh yeah, those odds just weren't correct. And it's like, no, there's a reason that it's running back. It's not GT to Chicago that those odds are reflecting. It is the position as a whole. So
yeah, if I did some math, they're plus 230 to draft a running back, and Genty's plus 300 for them. The math isn't math, boy.
Yeah, does not.
Let's go over to our next mock trade. Fun one. We have to, get back up, and it's a little early. This is the 24th pick. We just gave you the 20th pick, but there's a reason for it. I promise, guys. I promise I make these things make sense. We're gonna see the team with the least amount of draft value trade back, get some more value, because they traded up twice last year. Dallas Turner and JJ McCarthy. Now
they have 4 picks in this draft.
4, yeah.
They have 24, and then you don't see them until 97, which is a compensatory pick for Kirk Cousins. So they didn't initially have that. They had 3 total picks before that. They need picks because they have a little bit more needs than just kind of like similar to Denver or Chicago, where it's like, they can really kind of go BPA. Obviously, Minnesota would go some kind of secondary if we were to stick and pick with them. But this is the prime range, and you're going to see some mocks kind of reflect Minnesota trading down because they just need all of the capital that they could.
Yeah.
It's Giants, it's Saints, I'll throw a Raider in.
Yeah, sure.
I'll throw
Cleveland.
Yeah. I think somebody's trading up for Jackson Dart if he's here. He's a heavy favorite to go in the first round.
Well, let me change it.
So it's not like they're falling.
Let me change it over. We'll show you why. Shadur Sanders isn't on the board, guys. That's part of it. Yeah.
Fair. We haven't gotten that far.
I hadn't gotten there yet.
Yeah, Shadur to the Steelers. That's just kind of what the vibes are getting, unless somebody trades above Pittsburgh, which I think even a Giants going from 34 all the way to top 20 seems a little rich. You're gonna have to give up a ton for that. I think that they would be more motivated if they were to get Travis Hunter to do that. I don't think that the Cleveland Browns are in the same boat of that scenario of, hey, if we get Travis Hunter, we're gonna move up. Whether or not they should or not, and ride with Joe Flacco, that's up for interpretation. But they've been dysfunctional in the top 5 for a long time because of that. But Pittsburgh has the worst quarterback situation that I can think of in this out of all 32 teams, because they played with the fiddle way too much. They had 2 potential 2025 starting quarterbacks in Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, willing and ready to sign with them, and they let both walk.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were like, oh, but we're going to go with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to be there.
Nope.
I'm going to say that right now. There is a reason that has cooled off. He even went on his buddy Pat McAfee's show, and it's just like, really just like, hey, somebody, I will play for $10 million, basically trying to do everything but say, hey, I'm going to be a Steeler. He's like, oh, I don't have to give a time frame, but I'll play for $10 million. He's just like, hey, please, Minnesota, please, San Francisco, move on from what you want to do, or let me play for you. Those are the 2 spots he wants to go to, and I think he's more likely to retire than be a Pittsburgh Steeler. With that said, Pittsburgh has no other plan because it's Mason Rudolph. That's all they got. So they have to do something if they're not going Aaron Rodgers. And Shadur, to me, by default, he's fallen to him because there is no team after 9 that will stick and pick and play with him. So unless somebody moves up in front of them, this is going to be where Pittsburgh goes.
Skylar Thompson, man. What about it?
Okay. Yeah, I forgot about it.
Well, they did add the receiving core, to a non-quarterback team.
You don't trade a second-round pick and then sign DK for $30 million annually if you're not going to
get a quarterback, like a legitimate quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The thing is, I don't know if it's the best case scenario for a Shadur, but it's not the worst for sure.
No, I agree.
He could have. This is the one spot where he can have a bad rookie year, but still be good enough to propel them to be a flirtatious playoff team. Like they won't win because of him, but they could win in spite of him.
Right.
And so that's why I like the fit.
Well, I have some problems just in general.
Yep.
The fact is they have no second round pick. They have the 29th draft, like trade value capital basically. So they can't move up. If somebody does move, they aren't going to be able to, fight for that pick unless they give up next year's picks. It might be Jackson Dart if they fall, but I could see 2 teams moving up in front of them to make sure they don't get a quarterback, because everybody knows they back themselves into a corner. They have to take quarterback round 1. They don't have a choice. And if they don't take quarterback because 2 teams got in front of them and took quarterback, they might have to move. They might have to go, Tyler Sheff. They might have to go Jalen Milroe, and it's going to be really bad and ugly.
I said this before, and I'll kind of say it again. I have an envision, long-term outlook of Pittsburgh becoming a Dallas Cowboys. The team of you rely on all the history.
Good.
You were spoiled for decades. And all of a sudden now, you're being a Raiders fan.
I love both. This is awesome.
I have not seen a organization as, with the pedigree Pittsburgh does, make so many bad decisions at once to just truly change their outlook. And obviously you have to pencil them in for a winning record every year because it's Mike Tomlin. Maybe he ends up, because of all that dysfunctionality, ends up being not for long, and all of a sudden, because of the way that they've done things that are not Steeler-like, it puts them down, a hole to where they kind of end up becoming in the back. All these AFC teams have been drafting quarterbacks. If you did a top 20 list of quarterbacks, probably 14 to 15 that's too high. 12 to 13 of the top 20 are probably AFC quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And they are dead last as of right now. And if Shadur doesn't pan out, or Tyler Shaw or Jalen Milroe do not pan out, all of a sudden you're in the superior conference without the quarterback. And that's a dangerous game, especially if it weren't for Mike Tomlin being there. It's hard to stay afloat when you're just kind of backed in the corner, like we said.
Yep. And then on the other side, Jackson Dart going to New Orleans. We made the case already, kind of. They have two of the worst quarterbacks as their backups, and then their starting quarterback has a serious shoulder injury that may keep him out. He might retire from, type of thing. They need quarterback. This is a way to do it. They move up into the first round. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, they get the fifth-year option. Quarterback is the most important position on the team. Go get your guy. We've said in the past, in the last couple of weeks at least, that Jackson Dart's starting to trend to the guy that makes the most sense for them. I think he fits them better than Shedeur, but I also now think that everybody else is seeing that. And someone said it. I think Todd McShay said it, or someone like that. That was like, yeah, Jackson Dart is my, going to 9 to the New Orleans Saints. Well, he's absolutely right. It's not at 9 though. Yeah. Kind of thing.
No, I mean, I just think it's been such an interesting topic of conversation between Shedeur and Dart because we've had them as in this order 2-3, but very close all offseason. It's very
355, I think.
Yeah,
is what we have.
Very small difference, and they've both kind of in tandem fallen down our draft boards throughout the whole offseason. But at the same time, they're so close, and everybody has just had such a big gap, and just like pros for Shedeur, and it's like, well, Jackson has those same pros. He can also throw it on a dot and a dime and have these highlight reel throws. And he also has those kind of questionable head scratching moments as well, like Shedeur. But it's just like, hey, you're omitting that hint with him, but you're propelling.
Yeah, very interesting like prospects because like Shedeur's like the accuracy, throws on time, but Jackson has the arm. Like the big arm talent. He's
got athleticism too.
Yeah, mentally younger probably because of the fact that he played for Lane Kiffin, and that doesn't help you. I promise. At the end of the day, you win a lot of games, you throw a lot of balls, but it doesn't mean that you are reading the field. I think that Shedeur does a better job of that right now, but it doesn't mean that Jackson can't learn that. He's 21, 22 years old. There's a lot of time. Quarterbacks playing until they're 36. I think Jackson Dart, if we're just talking about in a vacuum, he has way more upside than a Shedeur Sanders. So that's the end of it.
And I'm looking at our big board. Like I said, 2 spots difference, very close, but both mid to late second round guys. But every single board has it at least 20 spots different. Or pardon me, Jeremiah dropped Sanders and rose Dart a little bit. But yeah, I mean, freaking PFF has Dart at 131. And even though I like the fact that they have Shedeur at 45 because it's just like, hey, we can't just over-propel to say Shedeur is the top 5 prospect in this class, Mel Kiper. You can't do that. You can't,
absolutely not.
You can't do that to the public and say, hey, I would take him over all but just 4 guys in this draft.
He's basically a blue chip player at that point.
Exactly.
And that's just not the case.
No, not even close. And I mean, Bleacher Report has it 30 spots different. It's a massive difference, but the thing is, they're both heavily favored to go in the first round, and at this point, I think they're both going to go in the mid-20s. Yep. Dart is going to require a trade up because I think somebody but it's probably a good idea to get in front of the Rams because I could picture them going Dart.
Trades. I think that's a really good spot for him. I agree with that.
Yeah, if it's no trades, I think that's his floor.
Yep.
And somebody's going to be moved up for my eyes. And then the other one's going to be picked by Pittsburgh. That's kind of how I view this. I'm
with you. The next guy was a guy that fell that we keep talking about. It's Jahdae Barron. And me and you kind of talked about this because we've had the most love for pairing Kenneth Grant and the Los Angeles Chargers. And you were like, okay, just do it again, right? And I'm like, hold on. Jahdae Barron's on the board.
Yeah.
And I literally have in my notes long before we even talked about this because I wrote these notes 2 days ago and we hadn't even started talking and our first draft did not look like this, like we said.
Yep.
I said if a number 1 cornerback can fall to them, it's a slam dunk. If it's Will Johnson or Jahdae Barron, you have to pick him. Now, that's the number 1 need for them in my opinion. Benjamin St-Juste, he's the star. Benjamin St-Juste and Dante Jackson both have lower than 50 grades. One's 110 and one's 112 at 116 corners. It's terrible. Cam Hart, who is their backup corner, has a 58.6 grade, 85th out of 116. I think Jahdae could start at safety for them. Alohi Gilman could go ahead and hit the road. Honestly, I think that Jahdae has 4 positional value for that team. The only player that isn't getting passed is Derwin James. Basically to me, because He's just that good. But Jade helps this team so much, in my personal opinion, and that's why I think he's just like, if he gets here, which I don't think he will. Let's just be honest. But if he does, this is such a great pick for them.
Yeah, this is the if then statement because of the debauchery that's going to happen with quarterbacks and the receivers and all that. Good players are going to fall, and it's going to fall into good situations or situations that are probably better or unexpected for teams. And the Chargers, everybody wants to put Colson Loveland or Kenneth Grant there with their big board or their final mock. And I understand it because it's Jim Harbaugh, and you did that last year, and he drafted multiple Michigan players. I understand the connection, but like you said, this is the need, and the Chargers are one that don't show their hand, and I hate them. You have to take this with a grain of salt with like final 30 visits and stuff like that. But they visited with none of these guys. Everything that was their visit, or at least that has been reported, has been day 2, day 3 guys. So even though you want to convince yourself, hey, they're infatuated with Loveland. Well, one, he's not going to be here, and they're not. I don't think that they can trade up. I think they're more likely to trade up than Denver because Denver, signed Evan Ingram.
Right.
However, he won't make it to 22 is all I'll say. So I won't be shocked if they move up, but if they're sticking and picking, he won't be there. Kenneth Grant, I think, could be there.
I think he should be there.
He should be there.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, with this iteration, he is. But again, like you said, one of those two guys falls. There's a big drop off after that. So that's kind of why we went this route. And we're gonna just hopefully just all be wrong, or we're gonna be right and only be the only one that reaps the benefits because no other mock is gonna have them taking the corner.
Yeah, and I don't think it's all about if he gets here. It's all about him or Will Johnson. But if one of them gets here, they run the card in as fast as possible because they know that the team after them also will be wanting a corner in Green Bay, and that's just always fun, spoiling everybody else's dreams.
For sure.
So let's go over to Green Bay because actually I do think this is a very tantalizing pick. I think he's probably very highly favored, probably minus 200 to go in the top 20. It is what it is. He fell. Someone has to, like we've been saying.
You can't have more than 32 players with minus odds to be in the first round and just have them all pick there. Yeah. Like there's only 32 picks. There's more than 32 that have minus odds. Like that, it just is what it is,
Green Bay.
All right.
This is something that I don't think anybody is going to have. And we went back and forth because I was like, well, the real options are, Maxwell Hairston. You have Donovan Ezeraku if you wanted to go that way. You have James Pierce, maybe Walter Nolan, whatever. And the reason we ended on James Pierce is because they love, and we're guessing here, because Green Bay is impossible to draft for. Wide receiver here, sure. There's no wide receiver that I think makes sense because they don't want any more wide receiver twos. It's just James Pierce is the uber athletic player that they always go for. You had this last year, Rashawn Gary, uber athletic, low production. Added him a while back. Lucas Van Ness. Really, really solid athlete, no production. He didn't play well this year, but he's like one of those guys that builds. Edrin Cooper, another guy. Just add them all. They're all in there. And so that's kind of what we're thinking here is just uber athletic defensive player that had some production, but didn't play enough on the team, and he has issues, and he's falling down draft boards. Well, it's going to stop. We're not going to let it happen this time around.
Green Bay is one of the interesting spots where you kind of
anything,
not necessarily reach because we don't view James Pierce as a reach because he's a top 15 player in our eyes. But at the end of the day, based on how mocks are currently going, you're having to reach on a corner unless one falls to you.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're having to reach on an edge that is probably going to be going in the 28 to 34 range.
Wide receiver. Reaching on wide receiver.
Again, wide receiver. No one would bat an eye if they went with Luther Burden or Emeka Ibuka. But guess what? It doesn't solve the same problem that you have, which is you have 4 wide receiver 2s and 3s.
That's right.
That's what they're going to be. And so it's not a great pairing or situation for either of those guys. But with that said, it's very telling that they're plus 100 right now for D-line/edge, which I thought was pretty interesting. I think it's less of a reach if they do go this route. There were some guys that were on the board that I wasn't pushing for, but it's just like, man, this is a tough decision. But yeah, Pierce, like you said, gambling on a guy that has top 10 overall pick upside, I think is the right way to go for a team that is on the fringe of playoff.
You mean a team that always does that?
Yes.
Doesn't matter where they're at playoff wise, right? No, I'm with you. It just makes a lot of sense, especially because he's a guy that He went on there. He went on a third top 30 visit too with them. So I think he's one of their,
basically
at least
all
on their
all
eyes.
the guys that we were considering
Had been, yeah,
so
exactly.
they're a tough one.
That's 24. Sorry, I was like, where's 24? That was Jackson
Already
Dart.
talked Dart. This one, they're minus 290 to go O-lineman. They're going O-lineman in some way, shape, or form. This is, to us,
This is
their
what we
best,
love.
This is their best case scenario, is sticking and picking and Josh Simmons, who's our 6th overall prospect, falling in their laps by default. Sneaky feeling it's not going to happen. I have a feeling. I have a feeling somebody's going to take Josh deservingly earlier than this. And with that said, if Houston wants to not go with the Tyler Booker, I remember a couple years ago when they overdrafted Kenny Green after trading back. Obviously, he's already gone, so that was an awful decision. And then Titus Howard, they ended up going with, which everybody knew that if you wanted to go line, you had to go line there. And that was the draft that Christian Darrisaw, a lot of people had going there.
Well, he went much earlier though.
Yeah.
Which worthy.
No,
Well,
yeah,
absolutely worthy of it though.
People were just kind of like, hey, Houston's going to have a line fall. It feels like every other year there's like Houston's the line team. But apparently I think if you truly want a Josh Simmons or a Kelvin Banks specifically, those two guys, you have to move up for them from 25. But if not, Tyler Booker is a heavy favorite to go in the first, and I would not like that pick going to Houston. But they're going in some way, shape, or form. They're kind of backed into a corner with New England, but a little bit more flexibility to do some things.
Well, they did. Their starting O-line is pretty atrocious. If I just read the names off, Titus Howard moved to left guard, which is actually a much better place for him at the end of the day. And then Patterson, 64.1 grade. Shaq Mason, a 60.5 grade, and then Blake Fisher is at 44.7, which was the worst of the O-linemen. He played right tackle for them. He was out of Notre Dame last year. The opposite side of Joe Alt. They picked the wrong Notre Dame player. But then they added 5 offensive linemen. Cam Robinson, Laken Tomlinson, Jerome Calvin, Ed Ingram, Trent Brown. They just added as many as they could on one-year deals and said, whoever sticks, sticks. But they still need more. The best way to get it is with the best player in the draft, or with the best O-lineman in the draft, and that's right here with Josh Simmons.
They've basically just tried to have first-round busts, and Cam Robinson, who is aging on a one-year deal, like trying to mask the issue, and it's just like all 5 positions need an upgrade.
Yep.
If they went O-line, 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 I'd be like,
yeah,
you did it.
Good job.
I hope odds are you hit on 3 of those guys and don't have to worry about it next year, but I just think that they're going to need to be a little bit more aggressive if they want to knock it out of the park in this draft.
I think Titus Howard is serviceable, but he just doesn't have anybody around him either, which does not.
Offensive lineman.
No, absolutely not. That is absolutely not. I said serviceable, Cameron. Serviceable. Jesus. No, but he's a bust when it comes to being a first rounder. So it's just one of those things. They're going to do it again. Hopefully they get the right guy this time. We think it's Josh Simmons.
Yeah, you're going to have, they might be a dark horse team for me too, because I'm not putting two AFC South teams in the playoffs, but if they don't hit the line correctly, or how serviceably, or whatever adjective you want to describe it as, if they don't knock it out of the park in this draft and fix their offensive line needs, I'm picking somebody else to win this division, and I don't know who, but it's going to be somebody else. Just because I'm just like, hey, Stroud struggled last year, and it wasn't awful. Now it's going to be awful, and you expect him to have a turnaround to look like the rookie he was. I just don't see it happening. So, they to me have a lot of pressure in this draft.
Yeah, they have one legitimate need, and it's 5 guys on the O-line.
Yep.
Here's a recap.
Yep. So Jahad Campbell loved the pick to the Bucks. Golden inherited by the Broncos because they're not taking a running back. They're just not. Again, putting a shot on
with it.
Shadur Sanders falls into the Steelers' laps. They need a quarterback. Jahdae Barron falls into the Chargers. Not going to be a lot of commonality pick there. Same with Pierce to the Packers. Jackson Dart moved up. Minnesota moves down. Saints move up for the guy that they are. What was it? Heavy heated.
Oh,
whatever.
Hot and heavy.
Hot and heavy.
Yeah,
they're hot and heavy for another man. So, and then Josh Simmons again, knock it out of the park if that happens. Kind of have some doubts that it will end up that way.
Yeah, it's pretty far. Next up,
all right, let's close.
A guy that we were having the hardest time figuring out what to do with, Nick Manwari. Look, He is not easy to like. You can't tell me like there's an easy landing spot for this guy. Like everybody wants to act like he's going in the first round. He's got these great odds to go in the first round, and I'm like, well, where? And we had to put him somewhere. Los Angeles Rams make the most sense in my personal opinion between the teams that need safety, could go safety. They like young athletic freaks and stuff like that. So that was why he kind of went here. I think they could upgrade it. Quentin Lake is their nickel. This is actually kind of part of why. The nickel and Cameron Curl is their safety. Both are 2026 free agents. Their linebacker core is terrible. Except for Omar Spites, who's a 2024 undrafted free agent, which is a very great pickup by them. But at the same time, he can help in the box because he's so big and so athletic. So I think it just makes a lot of sense if you're just talking about how they could actually use him. Stop thinking safety and think chess piece when it comes to Nick Manwari. And that's kind of like how you can kind of find the team that makes the most sense. And that's what I did here.
Yeah, he's a very interesting one. It is a straight up pick 'em on who's the first safety off the board now between Malachi Starks, who has been as high at 13, and then Nick Manwari, who had the 10.0 RAS. You know, he blew up the combine and went viral and all that stuff, and all of a sudden that's cooled off, and he's dropped down big boards. But again, he didn't move from when he performed basically with us, because we were just like, yeah, we expected it. That was going to be the guy, and then Malachi we think is the better player. But at the end of the day, I think somebody's going to gamble. Rams are one of the hardest teams as well to me to pencil in, because I think they could go literally any position. Fun, interesting tidbit, if you're another kind of bet, safety is the lowest or worst odds of any position that is not a kicker / punter / long snapper or running back for them to take in the first round. So they're the 8th best odds.
Wow, that's pretty crazy.
If
honestly,
both safeties are on the board, you know, another Lincoln maybe down the drain. But yeah, we think that they're going to try to gamble on some guys that are huge upside guys, because they are a potential sleeper to be, you know, coming out of the NFC. I mean, they were the only team that had Philly in any kind of precarious position in the playoffs, and damn near came back and won that game. So they need a couple more tweaks and pieces. They've been really revamping this defense, you know, getting really young, especially in the front seven. Right here, Manwari just kind of helps on the back end, and that's why we like this pick.
Yeah, cornerback is their first pick, and then offensive line. So cornerback's plus 260, and then offensive line's plus 290. Cornerback is such a reach here. Like, that's the problem, is like you could go Maxwell Harrison, who we have much lower on our board compared to everything else.
I think those odds are heavily inflated because of the fact that they're only considering Jackson Dart, and if there's no trades in this range, and he just falls, like, hey, yeah, that's reasonable.
For corner?
Oh, I thought you said
no, quarterback's plus 480. It's third.
Right.
Yeah, I was talking about cornerbacks plus 260, which I'm thinking is Maxwell Harrison, Trey Amos. I don't really know, honestly. And then offensive line is plus 290.
Between the two, but
maybe, yeah. And then offensive line's plus 290, but it's like their offensive line's pretty good. They just signed their left tackle. Their interior offensive line's been fine. Their right tackle is the one that they're like trying to, pick up players for. But he had an injury. He's just got it fixed in his shoulder. He's an undrafted free agent in 2026. But like otherwise, I don't know. Okay,
right.
Doesn't really make sense. Is all I'm getting out here.
This could be so many ranges that I think if there's one team in the final 10 picks that is going to be completely just every single mock draft that you see is going to be a different position or player,
right?
It is this team, because I could see safety, I could see D-line, I could see O-line, I could see everything but basically running back, which is obviously what the odds reflect. So
I'm somewhat confident in safety. Plus 2,200, guys. Somewhat confident, honestly. Okay. So, all right, shoot. All right. Let's go on to the next grouping. It's actually going to be 2 guys. It's a big space, I know. But it's the last 2 defensive linemen that are going to make this list. It's going to be Kenneth Grant from the Baltimore Ravens and Walter Nolan going to the Philadelphia Eagles. When it comes to Kenneth Grant, we were talking about this a little bit because, like, we thought that, Baltimore is a interior offensive lineman in Tyler Booker or defensive line. We've seen Tyler Booker fall a lot in recent drafts and everything. He's minus 1,200, I believe, is what you told me earlier, to be in the first round.
Right.
I think that number is going to get a lot closer to even. And if he doesn't go to the Ravens, I don't know where he goes, really, is the problem. So we went with the defensive line side of the ball, talking about the three options: Derek Harmon, Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant. Well, the Ravens have two defensive tackles already that are pretty solid. Broderick Washington and Nnamdi Matabuke, they both play defensive tackle, and they run a 3-4, so they play like the defensive end spots. They need a nose, and I thought Kenneth Grant fit the nose much better than the other two, and that's why we went with him at the end of the day.
Yeah, so this slide, the epitome of it is, how do these two teams keep getting away with this? By drafting guys that we just love, at values, all that stuff. Kenneth Grant has been in the early 20s throughout the process. He's just one that's just like, I don't know where he's going, but he's going somewhere in there. And in this scenario, he's available at 27, which is like
the lowest.
One of the lowest that I've seen. I saw one of him going to Buffalo, but that's basically it. Everything else is like early 20s to even possibly teens. Walter Nolan, y'all are overthinking it with the character concerns. He's a top 10 player in this class. Former number 1 overall recruit, and he is the last pick of the first round to a team that just proved just 2 drafts ago, hey, character concerns be damned, we're going to take the best player, and it's going to work out, and you're just going to laugh.
It's happened multiple times, and we just keep doing it. Like, I loved Jeffrey Simmons. Well, look at what he did. Mm-hmm. Fell all the way to 19, and it rode off in the sunset. I will say the Eagles are plus 115 to go defensive line / edge. All right, so we added that, especially because in a second, Joe will realize that a lot of the edges have come off the board in total. I think there's 8 edges in this, or 7 edges in this first round, and it all happened before 32. And then if you look at the Baltimore Ravens, I just want to pull up their stuff before we get to it. Plus 100 to be a defensive lineman / edge, and then 360 to be an offensive lineman. So there you go.
I was just telling you it's going to be, D-line.
Yeah.
Derek Harmon is another
That's what
name
I was
that
going
right
to say,
now,
yeah.
He's a minus 1,600 to be a first-round pick, but there's also a story of him and his medicals possibly being a concern. Maybe that just pushes him from mid to late teens to late 20s, but one of these guys was going to fall in the first round, and we weren't going to feel good about any of them doing that, but because of the way the board fell, one of them had to, and we were like, hey, I'd rather do character concern than medical concern. So.
Right, and I did want to also add, if you just look at which of these D linemen would be first to be drafted, I know that you said minus 1,600 for Derek Harmon, but Walter Nolan and Kenneth Grant are actually above him when it comes to just being drafted first defensive lineman. So
it's pretty interesting, just based on the fact that he is minus 16. Derek Harmon is minus 1,600 to be a first rounder. Walter Nolan is minus 800, which is half of that, and then half of that is Kenneth Grant at minus 500.
Yes.
But then that's completely opposite based on first D lineman.
So. It's plus 5,500 for both Kenneth Grant and Walter Nolan to be the first D lineman, and then Derek Harmon is plus 10,000. So that's way back there. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to put that out there because I know that people are going to push back on this pick most likely. Next up, we do have one of those edges going off the board. It's Donovan Ezaraku. We have been putting Detroit edge every time. I added a position and Cam laughed at me because honestly, it's just edge. We just don't know what else to do with them. They're minus 190 to go edge. Yep. And they're going to go with Donovan Ezaraku. Yeah, whoever's left, James basically.
Pierce, if it's Ezaraku, if it's Mike Green falls there. Like, I think we've had a different one.
Sawyer.
We had Jack Sawyer, which it sounds like JT Tuimoloau, based on Todd McShay. That's his dart throw as like a late first rounder, JT Tuimoloau. Sure. Who cares? Like that type of player is what they need as a edge too. Especially, who knows what Aiden Hutchinson's going to look like coming off his broken leg. But it's edge. I'll put a shot on them getting that position solved. And if I'm wrong, is what it is. I probably will be slurring my words at that point.
Marcus Davenport also was injured. He tore his tricep last year. So it's like they have to. I mean, Aiden broke his tibia and fibula. And I'm not a doctor. Dustin's not here. But I know that's not good.
Basically, you're lucky if you were watching that game that he had long socks on because his bone was sticking out his leg. That's how big of he had to have immediate surgery that day. That's how serious his injury was.
Yep. So Donovan Ezaraku, another edge to the Detroit Lions. Yes, absolutely.
I love him going to Detroit or Philly. I think Philly was our what would we do? I think he's a pretty safe. What is his odds as a?
Oh, he's a first rounder. There's no way.
minus 500, same as Kenneth Grant. That's very heavy. That's not like, but it's just kind of among all defensive players, it's on the back end of.
Yeah, sure.
So, but yeah, we really feel safe about him being, in one of these spots towards the end of the first round.
Yep. And then we got a mock trade.
One more.
Yeah, this is the last one. It's going to be Tennessee trading up. Washington is the 31st in trade value. They need more picks. I think they have 5 total picks in this draft class, so adding picks is kind of the point here.
Same
Premise.
same kind of premise, and basically this end of first round trade with Dart and Shedeur off the board. Still, it's between somebody wants a receiver or somebody wants QB4, which is very realistic. If you want to scoff at Jalen Milroe being a first rounder, well, guess what? Not only was he invited to the draft as one of 17 guys, he's plus 130 to be a first rounder. Yeah. That is almost a pick 'em.
They're starting to look at him like Lamar Jackson.
Basically, his floor almost is the Giants at 34. So if they want to jump over Cleveland to secure him, that's why those odds reflect the way they do. And then receiver, there's a lot of guys, especially Emeka Egbuka. If we want to go to that slide, Tennessee is the team that we paired him with. In our What Would We Do, I think I put at the time Matthew Golden was on the board, and I like the fit of just, hey, you need somebody for Cam Ward to throw the ball to. That's where Tennessee was going. And with that said, you need somebody next to Calvin Ridley to pair because DeAndre Hopkins gone. Traylon Burks towards ACL late, and on top of that has been a bust. And then Nick Westbrook Akine, who basically caught a touchdown every other reception last year, he is also gone. So you need to fortify that pass game. And Emeka Egbuka to me is the perfect wide receiver too. He's one of my favorite players in this entire class. It's not like you're lower than me on him. You just have a slight preference in Luther Burden. But I think Emeka, he interviewed well, and so many teams love him that if there's a receiver rather that is moved up for it, it's going to be him, and I would enjoy him going to Tennessee.
That's absolutely fair. I think that you need stability when you're a young quarterback, and that's the way to do it, is getting a guy that not only does the things right in the receiving game, but also in the run game, blocking, and all that stuff. I love that pick. Emeka Egbuka will be better for certain teams, and Luther Burden will be better for certain teams. And that's just sometimes how it goes. Like, that's just the fit and how the style is. Of course, one of them is probably a better player. But at the end of the day, sometimes you don't get the same opportunities going certain places. And I think Emeka Egbuka fits really well for the Tennessee Titans. Buffalo Bills. All right. Malachi Starks. Makes a lot of sense to me. We went and we were talking about, who's going to fall out of the first round. And it almost felt like Malachi was going to be one of the guys to do it. I think that, if you just talk about safety for them, that's one of my biggest needs on this team is safety. They have DeMar Hamlin, who had a 52.7 grade, 85th out of 98. He's a 2026 unrestricted free agent. And then Taylor Rapp, who I really like. I like Taylor Rapp when he came out. 57.7 grade, though, was 75th out of 98. Not good enough. Cole Bishop is really the only backup they have. You need guys. And guess what? Malachi Starks is still on the board. There are other positions you could address, defensive line, whatever. Your offensive line was great. You have some wide receiver things, but this is the play, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, and I think one of the conflicting things in looking at odds versus, trying to do final reports and stuff, which not all of them are going to reflect, but there is just kind of smoke there. Todd McShay said that it is more likely that both safeties drop out of the first than both safeties being selected in the first. The odds, however, Amanda Worry, minus 1,400 to be a first rounder. Malachi Starks is minus 1,000.
Yeah.
That is a big, big number.
Parlay that.
To say, hey, if you're like, hey, neither one is going to be a first rounder, parlay the hell out of that. And you're going to make over 100 to 1, I would assume, based on those odds.
Plus 800 probably on one side and plus 1,250. Yeah, you're making a lot of money.
Exactly. So just dollar dart throw. And that would work out if you believe Todd McShay. But at the end of the day, we went BPA, Malachi Starks. It just feels too good. And like you said, safety play has just not been the same since they let Taylor Rapp and who was the second guy a couple years ago?
It was Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer.
Yeah.
Yeah, not Taylor Rapp's there.
Taylor Rapp is there.
Sorry.
Yes. So, since they both have been gone, safety hasn't been the same. And, DB all of a sudden is just a huge, need and fix, and I think they'll address that a couple times this draft. If it's in the first place, first pick maybe, but they've also been a sneaky trade down team too in recent drafts, or trade up. Last year, they traded down. The year before, they traded up. So I wouldn't be shocked if there's movement with Buffalo, but right now I think defense some way improved is what they're going to be looking forward to.
I will say also this team has the most day 3 picks and at 7. They have the 12th most draft capital, which is because of the fact that they got so many compensatory picks at the back end. They have no 3rd rounder, but they have 2 2nd rounders. And quick rumor, James Cook did not show up for voluntary workouts. I don't know why, and they were making a big deal out of it, but it is voluntary, so we're not going to jump into anything. But apparently they might be in the running back.
James Cook was last year's 2024 season touchdown leader, and they would be smart to sell high if somebody were to take a shot. This is a historically great running back class, and you don't have to address it here, but I guarantee you will get 98%, at least in the rookie year, of the same production, if not more than that, if you went with Travion Henderson, or if you waited in round 2, which they have 2 2nd-round picks to address that, if they went to Caleb Johnson, Woodshot Judkins, or if you wait to the mid-round guys. And, I mean, Ray Davis is there, and we saw him go for over 100 all-purpose yards in the spot start that he had. So don't be married if you're a Buffalo Bill fan to James Cook, because I think there are better options. And if James Cook was a prospect, would he even be a top 10 player in this class?
No, he wasn't a top 10 player in his class, I feel like.
Didn't even hesitate.
No way. I mean, James Cook is still a question mark because he only takes like 13 rushing attempts per game. Right. Like he catches, the reason he's good at fantasy is because he catches the ball in the backfield, not because he runs the ball. And it's also helpful when you have a really good offensive line and you have Josh Allen.
Yeah.
It helps.
To me, he and a guy like Bucky Irving / Rashad White, because Rashad White, the praise for him was the same exact that it was for Bucky Irving now after he was a league winner. Find a way when you're ranking running backs to separate fantasy sometimes from actual productivity and
ability.
Yeah. Like there's a difference. Like James Conner has never been to me a top 10 running back, but he's always been a top 10 fantasy player just because he just is going to grind you 22 touches, and touches are king in fantasy sports. If you are the only running back that is getting goal line touches for a team that's a playoff team, Super Bowl contender, you are going to inherit 15 touchdowns, and just be able to differentiate that. That's the story for another day.
Yeah, tangent's over. Yep. Next, Kansas City Chiefs.
Josh Conley Jr.
Absolutely.
Obviously, O-line needs. They did sign Jalen Moore, who's a swing tackle for the 49ers. I didn't love.
Overpaid him.
They paid him short term, but $15 million a year for a swing tackle that has not even played great it was a very interesting decision. They also overpaid, a couple years ago. I specifically remember the moment Jawan Taylor. You were like, I actually like that signing. I was like, yeah, 4-year, 82. Oh
no, yeah, I texted you back. I was like, oh, I didn't look at it.
And he's been absolutely awful. He's been the meme of him rocking or starting, a step early, being way in the backfield, and penalty after penalty after penalty. He's been awful. They get to part ways with him next offseason. Not they have to. They get to. And left tackle, obviously, tried to in the short, or not even in the short term. In the second round, Kingsley Su'Mataia tried to resolve that, and he just was not good very early out the gate. Then they had to put their Hall of Fame guard out to left tackle, Joe Tooney, and that wasn't working because then that left a hole on the inside. So they need to fix their offensive line. They are minus money to be to go to that position, and right now it's basically between that and Tyler Booker. We decided to go with Connerly because of the bigger need.
Tackle's more important than guard will be. So that's kind of my biggest thought on that, is why we put him there. I actually really like Connerly. He's a really good athlete. He's a young guy that has some strength issues, but at the same time, he's one of the best pass blockers in the class, and he has time with Jalen Moore and Jawan Taylor on the other side, so he can learn and get bigger and get more athletic, or get stronger, and I think that will really help him. Kansas City, though, man, trending in weird directions right now. So
interesting.
Yeah, but that is the end of our mock draft because we did 32 with Walter Nolan. Let's get a recap. It's Nick Manwari for the Rams, Kenneth Grant going to the Ravens, Donovan Ezraku to the Lions, another edge to the Lions, Emeka Ibuka to the Titans after they move up and get him, Malachi Starks to the Bills, best player available, Josh Connerly Jr. to the Chiefs, and Walter Nolan to the Eagles. They get another absolute stud for their defensive line.
Yep. And the honorable mention, Jalen Milroe is either going 33 or 34. Based on how it's going, the odds are shaping out. Do you have a preference on fit or? I've even heard a lot of people say that the Raiders are interested in keeping him as the backup for.
I'm not against that, honestly.
Wouldn't be against. So basically, 37 is his floor. I think that's your second round pick. So
I think I don't. Okay, Cleveland cannot take Jalen Milroe and think they're gonna play him. Is the problem? Like, he can't play early. Like, what are you gonna do? Kenny Pickett, and when Kenny Pickett isn't able to play, you're gonna put Jalen? No, please don't do that. So I guess it's got to be the Giants. This is my favorite landing spot for him, because if it's not the Raiders, obviously, I think Tyler Shuff makes more sense for the Browns, obviously, because he's older, more ready to play, bigger arm, a little bit smarter in intelligence-wise, that kind of thing. So,
and you even have Malik Neighbors, who's the rookie sensation last year, even kind of campaigning a little bit for Jalen Milroe pairing too. So at least the diva receiver, he doesn't realize how bad it's going to be for him in the future. But for the short term, at least he is on board with the move publicly.
Well, I know that Russ is a 1 year and Jameis is a 2 year, but I think Jalen needs 2 years to sit and learn before he can play. And so that's the biggest thing for me, because I don't know that he's going to be a bad quarterback if he does get the time to be a backup quarterback and learn and be, not expect to play, because he's not Lamar Jackson. We're trying to put him at 32, and I said this earlier, but he's not Lamar Jackson. So if he was at 32, he got picked just like Lamar did. He is not the same arm talent that Lamar has. Similarly, Jaden Daniels was just a better Lamar when it came to arm talent. Not running. Those are different. But so you're just talking about similar athletes, and he has the less arm talent out of all three.
He's confidently in interviews said, which Lamar never ran a 40, so you can only fantasize about what it would have been. I would assume it would have been high 4.3s, but
sure.
Who knows?
Yeah.
He plays faster anyways. But with Milroe, do you think he's capable of playing a non-quarterback position? Or is it
Braxton Miller?
Or like a Braxton Miller, Terrell Pryor, Pat White?
He's more I think he's more Braxton Miller's type size, but I don't think he can.
Yeah.
No.
It's either
I really
out.
Don't think he can. Tight end doesn't really make sense. I think I don't think he can be a slot. He can't play defense, obviously. I'm not doing that. It's ridiculous. No, I think he's a quarterback. And so taking him too early, Browns, and not having a backup plan and killing his career is not really worth the investment at that point.
Yeah.
It's my biggest thoughts.
The only time I think I'll be optimistic about him being an NFL player respectfully is when he's 4,800 on DraftKings in a spot start and he has 100-yard rushing upside. So we're just I'll take 13 points out of you.
That's fair. No, I'm with you there.
I'm
always with you.
I have severe doubt about his ability as a quarterback in the league, but other people like to gamble on athleticism, and I think he's a prime example of just hey, you're biting off more than you can chew. And I think if you're a team of or a fan of an NFC East team and he's a Giant, I think you're very happy. I don't think you're oh shit, man, they got away with him.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I think he has his best career trajectory though if he's a Giant. Mm-hmm. Or a Raider. Let's be honest. If he is a Raider, that would be perfect. Years, yeah. That would be perfect for him. But we appreciate you. No. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us. It's probably been 2 hours. I can't tell from here, but that was a good one.
I feel fantastic. We are less than 48 hours away from the draft. By the time you guys see that, it would be closer to 30 hours. Please tune in. We're going to be jumping in Thursday night around 6:30. We're doing some preview and then draft. We are going to be live streaming all night until the 32nd pick is picked. We're going to be eating some wings at the start. We're going to be maybe doing some tweez.
Yep,
it's going to be a whole lot of fun. Last year was our first live stream, and it went great, other than, just kind of being way worse at this in presentation and talking. But I think it went better than expected. And this year it's just going to be 10 times better. So I'm excited to have the community interact. It's been a long time since we've been able to interact with you guys.
Yep.
And it's going to be I'm so excited. It's like it's Christmas, dude.
It's the best day of the year, man. And actually we will be doing recap videos for the first and second day. And then we'll do a full recap of the whole draft with the fourth through fifth, seventh round.
And losers.
Yeah, we'll do the whole thing.
we'll tell you who we're shitting on, tell you who we're praising.
Yeah, what we'll do also is we'll re-rank the rookie running backs, wide receivers, and quarterbacks based on their landing spots for fantasy. That'll be something we'll get into. So you'll have all kinds of stuff. We don't really do dynasty, but that would be a really good way for you dynasty leaguers to get it. Tight ends too. I think I forgot them, but yeah. So we really appreciate it. We have a ton of stuff going on, and we will see y'all on Thursday. Yeah. So bye, y'all.